Well, if you're tired of Nintendo Switch 2 videos, I don't know what in the world you're doing still clicking on them, because when Nintendo officially drops this thing and they actually show us the first look trailer, you will see a title to the effect of Nintendo has officially revealed the Nintendo Switch 2. Until then, it's going to be a lot of discussion around the possibilities of what this console will feature. And you know what, today is not even a leak or rumor video, it's straight up primarily a discussion about us being able to pre-order accessories for a console that Nintendo hasn't revealed yet. And listen, I get it, it's frustrating with how long Nintendo's drawing out the life of the Switch and not showing us the successor console, but they themselves have confirmed that it's on the way, and hence it's really the biggest thing Nintendo related to talk about for the foreseeable future until we get their official first look trailer that I'm more or less expecting at this point to drop at the end of January, maybe into the February month. We'll have to go ahead and see how all that plays out. But yes, we not only have gaming companies that are starting to advertise their own games for Nintendo's next gen hardware before it's announced, such as Yuka Replayly just straight up showing a Nintendo logo and eyeballs dancing on it at the end of their trailer. And then we had this game called Ruffy and the Riverside also just straight up say in their social media posts that it's coming to Nintendo Switches with the eyeballs looking and the ES, you know, pointing out that it's not just going to come to the first gen console, but also the second gen console. Then we recently talked about on the channel how over on Alibaba, which maybe, I guess not everybody knows how big of a site Alibaba is. It's literally like the worldwide alternative to Amazon. It's massive. I don't know the exact, you know, market cap of that company versus Amazon, but anyway, straight up official listings for Nintendo Switch 2 accessories, even comparisons of the screen protector size from the prior Switch to the next gen Switch. And while, you know, some people will say, well, maybe this is just them doing guesswork, well, then they're selling a product that's going to get mass returned if it doesn't work with the next console, and then you're just literally spending money to manufacture something that can't even be used. So yeah, maybe it's a publicity stunt. You could argue a little bit of that if you really wanted to be highly skeptical. But now we have Satisfy, which if you're unfamiliar with, I use one of their grips right now for the Nintendo Switch. I think they're probably safely the market leader when it comes to grips for Nintendo Switch, and really one of the primary big names in accessory manufacturing for Switches today. They're just straight up dropping pre-order links that are live right now for a next generation, marketed as a next generation Nintendo Switch grip case. For the next gen console, it's supposed to fit that size. There's even a very blurry and, you know, almost you could say a supposed look at the next gen console that we're going to be talking about today, believe it or not. But this could be a render. Clearly, it doesn't mean that they took a picture of the Switch 2 and posted it, but it does, upon closer inspection, if you look at that right Joy-Con, it has the extra button. It appears that Satisfy is actually posted in their marketing material, kind of a very dim, blurred out picture of a Switch 2. That's the level that companies are at now, where, you know what, they don't know when Nintendo's going to actually reveal this console. They have a pipeline of products and information that they want to launch for the next gen hardware, and so the longer Nintendo waits, they're just going to start to throw out that stuff regardless of when Nintendo comments on it. And it's surprising because you could say it might threaten the relationship between Nintendo and that partner, but Nintendo has apparently briefed accessory manufacturers on what to expect from this console. That's where a lot of the leaks that we've been talking about, such as the magnetic attaching Joy-Cons that are believed to be in this console, are coming from actual legit companies that have worked with Nintendo for years and years. They have the exact dimensions. That leaked prototype image from October 2023 that got revealed here in the last few months, that was all tied to an accessory manufacturer, and then the CAD renderings kind of giving us an early glimpse at what the console will likely look like when the console finally ships. Like, that's all stuff that's coming out of accessory manufacturers, because if you're a partner for Nintendo and you're making a whole product line that you want to sell as close to the console launch as possible, you start to advertise these things. And the other reason that this is a very interesting tidbit of information from Satisfy is that it also has to deal with a specific time frame on when they're shipping this grip case, which you could theorize is around the launch time of the Switch 2, as that's when you'd expect to see it go to market. But you could argue that there's a possibility that them shipping the case in a certain time frame doesn't necessarily indicate that Nintendo's launching that console at the same time. But we have a lot to break down on that front. And then there's also kind of a discovery that's been made online due to a Nintendo job listing that does look like Nintendo will be using an upgraded type of SD card for expanded storage when it comes to read speeds that I want to briefly touch touch on after diving through the Satisfy stuff. So I want to first take you guys directly over to the Satisfy website. I will have this linked in the description down below. Believe it or not, you can go in and pre-order your next gen Satisfy grip ahead of time if you would like to. Also, Satisfy, if you're watching this video, reach out to me for a sponsorship collaboration. I'm a big fan of your guys' products. Now, you have kind of this actually really cool thing that I didn't notice when I was first looking at this, but it looks like you can put a couple of Switch cartridges in the sides of this case right where you're holding the grips. And honestly, I don't know if that would be extremely comfortable if you could kind of notice those notches as they stick out there. But nonetheless, you have dockable design, which there is currently a Satisfy grip that does do that. That's what I use on my console, and you can dock it with the grip attached, so you don't have to be, pulling your Switch in and out of the grip constantly, because it does grip it nice and snug. You really don't want to have to take it on and off all the time. And redesigned ergonomics, and of course, a big point here is shipping estimate spring 2025, and that's going to lead a lot of people to believe that springtime, which we're going to dive into that because we had the recent talk from Nate the Hate, who very reliable track record. It seems like they probably have inside knowledge of when this console is going to launch, and we're talking May and or June window here. So that actually is in line with spring. So I do think that this time frame is not different than anything we've really been talking about as of recently. But then you have this Zen Grip 2 Slim Bundle for $69.99, where you get the carrying case and the grip, or you can just get the grip alone for $49.99. However, we now need to look at this particular screenshot that is in the promotional video for this Zen Grip 2, and this is the big point of interest right here, because yes, you could say it's very hard to make out any specific features about this Switch, and you really can't see the exact screen size. I mean, the Joy-Cons appear to be a very similar shape to that of the previous ones. And is this actually a Switch 2? Like I mentioned, maybe not, because there is the possibility that this is just a render and or it is a mock-up unit that they have based off of the exact dimensions that Nintendo sent them for the console. But the point of interest here very much has to do with the second button, because you might remember that on the current Switch Joy-Cons that we have today, we do not have two buttons on the right Joy-Con, as we only have one. So the fact that this is clearly having two buttons that we can look at here does lead some credence to the idea that at the very least, this is a mock-up version of the Switch 2 that basically Satisfy has for their marketing, and they chose to put a blurred out, kind of zoomed out picture and very dark lighting to promote this thing. So again, the jury is still out on whether or not Nintendo is upset about this, or if this is some kind of agreement that Satisfy ran by Nintendo before they chose to start pre-ordering or providing pre-order links for their next generation grip for the Nintendo Switch 2. But very interesting timing. Now, some people may see this and see that springtime type of launch window for this product, and they might think that there's more credence now to the January reveal and March launch time window, which is a possibility. It came to us from a Chinese user over on Weibo who did leak a lot of the direct presentation contents from June of 2024 this year. So it's possible that they're also privy to the launch time of the console, but it's also possible because a lot of the games they leaked for that presentation were actually coming from various different sources online, or at least right around that same time, certain games that they were predicting that did come to pass. We had some leaks going around from other sources from that direct. So it's not clear to me that that user is 100% reliable. And it also seems very, I mean, it would be cool to see, and I want to see a March launch, but very aggressive for Nintendo to come out and try to market all of the games, because it's not just about the console. I feel like the console doesn't really need a big build-up time at all, but all the games that they're going to launch with it, the 3D Mario game that will supposedly launch alongside of it. Some people think it's going to be the next Mario Kart that launches the console. Either one, you're going to want to spend, really 3 months minimum promoting those games more than likely. And then we're going to have a lot of other launch lineup games, not to mention all of the third-party support that's going to be there day one. So it would be a very fast turnaround time. I am still more in this mindset that we're going to see the console late January, early February, and then we're going to walk into that May presentation that Nate the Hate has heard about and probably see the console on retail store shelves in the month of June. That's kind of where I'm setting my expectations now. Obviously, I'd love for it to be sooner rather than later, but believe it or not, late May, early June, that's still considered springtime. So the springtime launch estimate from Satisfy would line up with the rest of those reports that we're seeing online in terms of the supposed console release date. And I just find it funny at this point that companies are getting so impatient with Nintendo not revealing this thing that they're going to start their marketing campaigns for the next gen console regardless of if Nintendo reveals it or not. Now, the only other brief piece of information that's kind of new in Nintendo Switch news, besides there's actually another story that we're probably going to kick to tomorrow's video because it's more of a deep dive on the manufacturing side of things when it comes to Foxconn, and apparently a lot of Switches being assembled and sent to Nintendo. That's a big deal in and of itself. But the other tidbit of information that's floating around online for Switch 2 news has to do with a different type of SD card technology that will allow much faster transfer speeds. And a nice post that sums it up comes to us from Stealth over on Twitter, where he says Nintendo is looking for an electromechanical engineer to join their team. Based on this new job posting, it's possible that Switch 2 will support Samsung's SD Express micro SD cards. These cards have significantly better transfer speeds. And also, shout out to Super Metal Dave, as I do believe he was the one that originally talked about this job posting online and kind of correlating the type of experience that it's asking for with the idea that this is probably going to be in the Switch 2. And I do think that when you talk about Nintendo upgrading their internal memory, that's going to get a lot faster. It's maybe going to be in that 256, hopefully 512 gigs with the size of games nowadays. But let's say we get 256 onboard storage, you're still going to need a lot more storage for the size of games if you're really going to build out your library. And keep in mind, all of your Switch 1 games are confirmed to be backwards compatible at this point, so you're going to have your whole Switch 1 library potentially installed. And then in addition to that, you're going to have all the new stuff that comes out for Switch 2. And if you were getting Call of Duty, which we know we are, that can be upwards of 100 gigabytes plus for each new installment of that series. So you get the idea. You're going to need a lot of storage, so fast transfer times from an SD card is very important, both for just reading and writing data and also playing games that you have saved directly onto that SD card. It's not going to be as fast as the internal storage, it just can't be, but this sounds like it will be a big upgrade from a technology standpoint when it comes to expanding our Nintendo Switch 2's storage eventually. So let me know in the comments down below what you make of Satisfy straight up having pre-orders available for their next generation Satisfy grip for the Nintendo Switch 2. What do you think about that picture that appears to have a next generation Switch inside of there? Do you think it's like a mock-up console that they're using, maybe like a 3D printed one for their marketing? Do you think it's actually a prototype unit from Nintendo that was sent to them? Is it the finalized retail type of unit that was sent to them? And is Nintendo okay with this, or is Satisfy kind of going out on a limb here and risking some of their working relationship with the big N? But make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.